Dieter Bohlen is considered one of the most successful music producers in Germany. He has created superstars, made millions, and at the same time polarized audiences like almost no one else. For some, he's a genius. For others, simply arrogant. But no matter how you see him, Dieter Bohlen has permanently changed the German music industry. But how did an ordinary boy from Lower Saxony become one of the most famous personalities in the German-speaking world? The beginning. Dieter Bohlen was born in 1954 in Bern, Lower Saxony. At first glance, nothing about his early life suggested that he would one day become one of the most powerful figures in the European music industry. He grew up in a relatively ordinary environment, far removed from the glamour and intensity of the entertainment world. But even as a child, there were signs. Music wasn't just something he enjoyed, it was something he gravitated toward naturally. He picked up the guitar, experimented with melodies, and began writing his own songs at a young age. Still, talent alone rarely guarantees success. Bohlen understood that early. Instead of jumping blindly into music, he chose a more secure path first. He studied business administration, building a foundation that would later become one of his biggest advantages. While others focused only on creativity, Bohlen quietly combined creativity with strategy. He didn't just want to make music, he wanted to understand the system behind it. And that decision would later separate him from many other artists. Even during his studies, he never let go of his dream. Late nights were often spent writing songs, refining ideas, and imagining a future that, at the time, felt distant. But what made Bohlen different wasn't just passion, it was persistence. He didn't wait for opportunities, he prepared for them. The breakthrough. The real turning point came in the early 1980s. This was the moment when everything Bohlen had been working toward finally began to take shape. Together with Thomas Anders, he formed the duo Modern Talking. At first, it was just another project, another attempt. But what followed was something no one could have fully predicted. Their song, You're My Heart, You're My Soul, exploded across Europe and then beyond. It wasn't just a hit, it was a phenomenon. The sound was catchy, emotional, and perfectly aligned with the musical trends of the time. Suddenly, Bohlen wasn't just writing songs, he was shaping an entire era of pop music. Within a remarkably short time, Modern Talking became one of the most successful duos in the world. They dominated charts, sold millions of records, and built a fan base that stretched far beyond Germany. Bohlen's ability to create simple, memorable melodies proved to be incredibly powerful. He understood something many overlooked: music didn't have to be complex to be effective, it had to connect. And it did, on a massive scale. For Bohlen, this wasn't just success, it was validation. Everything he had worked for, everything he believed about music, was suddenly proven right. Success and conflict. But success rarely comes without tension. As Modern Talking grew bigger, so did the pressure behind the scenes. Differences in personality, expectations, and direction began to surface between Bohlen and Thomas Anders. What once worked effortlessly started to feel strained. Fame amplifies everything. Small disagreements become major conflicts, and in their case, those conflicts eventually reached a breaking point. The duo split. Just like that. To many observers, it seemed like the end. Bohlen had reached the peak, and now it was over. Without Modern Talking, what was left? But this moment revealed something crucial about Bohlen's character. Where others might have seen failure, he saw transition. He didn't collapse under the weight of the breakup. He adapted, quickly. Because for him, success wasn't tied to one project, it was tied to his ability to create. The producer. After the split, Bohlen shifted his focus. Instead of standing in the spotlight as a performer, he moved behind the scenes, and that's where his influence became even stronger. As a producer, he began working with a wide range of artists, and once again, his formula worked. Hit after hit followed. He had developed an almost instinctive understanding of what audiences wanted. Not just what sounded good, but what would sell, what would stick, and what would repeat. This phase of his career proved something important. Bohlen wasn't just lucky. He was consistent. He could replicate success across different artists, different styles, and different moments in time. His songs sold millions. His productions shaped careers. And slowly, he became one of the most powerful figures in the German music industry, not as a performer, but as a creator behind the curtain. And perhaps even more importantly, he proved that reinvention wasn't just possible, it was necessary. The TV star. Just when it seemed like Bohlen had already achieved everything, another transformation began. This time, it wasn't in music, it was on television. As a judge on Deutschland's suchten Superstar, Bohlen introduced himself to an entirely new audience. But this wasn't the polished, controlled image of a music producer. This was something different. He was direct, unfiltered, sometimes brutally honest. And that's exactly what made him stand out. In a world where many public figures carefully choose their words, Bohlen did the opposite. He said what he thought, without hesitation. For some viewers, it was refreshing. For others, it was too much. But one thing was undeniable: people paid attention. His comments became headlines. His presence became a defining element of the show. And once again, Bohlen positioned himself at the center of attention, not by changing who he was, but by amplifying it. Television didn't just give him visibility. It turned him into a cultural figure. Love him or hate him. Few personalities divide opinion as sharply as Dieter Bohlen. And perhaps that's exactly why he remains relevant. Some people admire his honesty. They see a man who doesn't hide behind politeness or political correctness, someone who speaks directly, even when it's uncomfortable. In a world full of carefully managed images, that kind of authenticity can feel rare. Others see something very different. They criticize his tone, his bluntness, and the way he delivers his opinions. To them, his style crosses a line. It's not honesty, it's arrogance. But here's the interesting part. Both perspectives contribute to his success. Because attention, whether positive or negative, keeps him in the conversation. And Bohlen understands that better than most. He doesn't try to please everyone. He focuses on being memorable. And that strategy works. The secret behind his success. So what's really behind Dieter Bohlen's long-lasting success? It's not just talent. And it's not just luck. It's a combination of factors that together create something much stronger. First, there's his ability to recognize patterns, trends in music, shifts in audience taste. He doesn't just follow them, he anticipates them. Then there's his discipline. Behind the public image is someone who has spent decades working, producing, and refining his craft. Success at his level isn't accidental, it's built over time. And perhaps most importantly, there's his mindset. Bohlen doesn't fear change, he embraces it. When one chapter ends, he doesn't look back, he moves forward. That ability to adapt again and again is what keeps him relevant in an industry where most careers fade quickly. Dieter Bohlen is more than just a music producer, more than just a television personality. He is a figure who has repeatedly reinvented himself, each time finding a new way to stay at the top. From a young boy in Lower Saxony with a guitar, to an international pop icon, to one of the most influential producers in Germany, and finally to a polarizing television star, his journey is anything but ordinary. And maybe that's the reason he still matters today. Not because everyone agrees with him, but because he refuses to be ignored. So what do you think about Dieter Bohlen? A genius or simply controversial? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.